is it B, A-list, B-list, C-list? They're all going to be there at this book launch. Fantastic book. What are we going to do so they can win the book? We'll think about it. Let's play this. We'll get back to you.
God's Talk Show.
More than 1,000 people have protested in London over the circumstances surrounding the death of 80s reggae star Smiley Culture. The singer died from a single stab wound through the heart during a police search of his home.
More than 1,000 people joined to march and protest at the death of Smiley Culture, eventually gathering outside Scotland Yard to deliver their message. Smiley Culture was an icon of British reggae rap. Many say he paved the way for Tiny Temper and Dizzy Rascal with his first release, Cockney Translation, and his subsequent hit, Police Officer. But it was while he was in custody of police officers that Smiley, real name David Emmanuel, died. He was stabbed last month, shortly after 4 Metropolitan Police officers arrived at his house with a search warrant. An inquest into his death was told he stabbed himself in the heart when he went to make a cup of tea. However, his family disputes that. Smiley's nephew, also a music producer, feels there hasn't been a sufficient explanation from police as to how his uncle died.
What we found hard to believe, of course, is that he was allowed to go into the kitchen to make a cup of tea and be around utensils and whatever else that might be in the kitchen. It could be a danger to himself or to others. It just doesn't really make sense, and all we want to do is get to the bottom, the truth of what happened.
In a statement, the chair of the Metropolitan Police Authority, Kit Malthouse, stressed that he would be speaking with the IPCC to ensure that all efforts are being made to liaise directly with the family and friends of David Emmanuel and to reassure the community of their commitment to the investigation. He will also ask the IPCC that the conclusions of the investigation be made fully and freely available to the public.
We are here today to demand change.
At the time that he died, 48-year-old David Emmanuel was on bail for conspiracy to supply cocaine. His family say they've commissioned an independent post-mortem to help to determine the bizarre circumstances which led to his stabbing.
God's Talk Show.
Let's turn that down. Now on Saturday, just before we get into our interview with JC Johnson, on Saturday there was the march for Death in Custody, sparked by the death of Smiley Culture in custody. And there were 4, I wrote them down. Merlin Emmanuel spoke, and they basically said that they're going to be moving for a judicial reform of the police with regards to deaths in custody. Now, they were requesting 4 things. Conflict of interest. I can't remember what the 4th one is. I'll remember in a second, but I do. The first one is that they want, suspension. That was it. I've got suspension. Yeah. They want lie detector tests. First thing they're going to have is lie detector tests. That's what they want. That's what they're asking for 10 Downing Street or the government to bring in. If somebody dies in police custody and nobody else was there to witness it, they want the officers who were involved, and only the officers who were involved, to have to take a lie detector test. That was the first of their requests on this judicial reform. Number 2 was they want the officers involved to be immediately suspended. Immediately. No exceptions, immediately suspended. Number 3 was that no one in the IPCC should have worked with the police or for the police prior to working for the IPCC. And number 4 has jumped out of my head. And I wrote it down, and it's on a piece of paper here, and I'm going to find it. I'll find it in a second. Now, the news, the mainstream media, BBC, ITV, and so on and so forth, are effectively saying there was 500 people at this march. I watched the filming of this march, and it looked to be a bit more than 500 people. Campaign for Justice for Smiley Culture says it was 2,500 people, and various other people on Facebook said it was about 2,500 people. So there's kind of like some discrepancy. There's an argument between the campaign and the media as to how much people were at this march. Now, what jumped into my mind about this is I've seen the film, and if you go online, Campaign for Justice for Smiley Culture, there'll be a link there where you can actually see the march and the amount of people that are at the march. It looks like there's more than 500 people to me. I'll be honest, it doesn't look like there's 2,500. I wasn't at the march. I was working late Friday night. Just wasn't going to happen, and I've got a newborn. It's just not going to happen, and she ain't well either. So it just wasn't going to happen. 12 o'clock, me in Wandsworth from the other side of London, just wasn't going to happen. So I can't categorically say, but there were people who were there who said it was about 2,000 to 2,500. Anyway, it's clear that the mainstream media are downsizing it and downgrading it. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why would the mainstream media do that? If they thought the campaign for justice was a waste of time, absolute useless, they weren't going to achieve anything, why lie about the numbers? Am I making sense here, producer? Okay. So the fact that they are lying about the numbers, or allegedly lying about the numbers, would suggest that they are concerned or afraid of something. So all I have to say on that smiley culture campaign thing is, keep doing what you're doing, because obviously you got them in the corner, and it's only a matter of time before they have to submit. That's my personal opinion, because it's just an untenable position the police are in. 1 death in custody per week over the past 10 years. That's just untenable. You can't be in Libya talking about you want to save civilians, and you got 1 person dying after contact with police every week in Great Britain. Every week for the past 10 years. It's just not possible. And then putting a media blackout on it as well. It's just not the one. It's not going to happen. So I think the police and the politicians involved know that they're going to have to bring about change. They do know that. Maybe they want to bring about change without it being stimulated by the Campaign for Justice campaign, because they don't want to give you the credit. I would say, don't back off. Stay true to it. Let's keep going on that one. I'll do my bit here. You do your bit. So when the medals are given out for this battle that has been won, the medals go to the right place. They don't end up on the shoulders of Liberty or Amnesty International. They end up on the shoulders of those people who've been pushing the campaign for justice for smiley culture, and those people who have joined in whose loved ones have been killed in police custody. All right? I say it again. If they're lying for a reason, which would suggest they're concerned about something. Just focus on that, read between the lines. Now, let's read this text and get back into today's main question, which is, what 3 things should a man not do on a date? Don't take a woman to a Chinese buffet for $9.99. I'm looking at you because I know that's the type of thing you would do. Not $9.99. $4.99. Don't do that. Danny God, hi. Pretty interesting topic. 3 things a man shouldn't do on a date. Keep on bragging about his ex. Why would you brag about your ex if she's your ex? Pretending to be what he is not. So you shouldn't go and rent a car then and wear a nice shirt that you can't afford and bring it back. That kind of stuff. Is that what you're saying? And trying too hard to be impressive. Jennifer. Thank you for that, Jennifer. Let's read one more and then we'll speak to JC. First dates, no-nos. Don't be late. What do you mean don't be late? So what, you could be late? What, women could be late? What's all this fashionable? I'm always late, man. I'm on Caribbean time. Late, right? Standard, late. Couldn't type my trainers, I'm sorry. Must not be a funky smelling. Sometimes people smell funky and don't know they smell funky. Or sometimes it's based on the diet that the person has. Like, say, Turkish people or Indian people smell slightly different to Chinese people, innit? It don't mean they smell funky. They just have their own particular smell. So it's something you have to differentiate between the two. Ask about sex. Why shouldn't you ask about sex on the first date? Listen, they have a saying in Jamaica. It goes like this. Don't buy puss in a bag. You ever heard about that one, JC? You don't know what I mean? Don't buy puss in a bag. If somebody comes up to you, like you got those Eastern Europeans, they'll come up to you and they say, do you want to buy a camcorder? And they'll show you a camcorder. Yeah? And then, you'll be there and they do something and you look away. And then they say, I put the camcorder in the bag for you. But you don't look in the bag. And you walk away, you look in the bag, it's a brick. Don't buy puss in a bag. If somebody gives you a bag, make sure that there's a puss in the bag. All right. Right, in the studio. Step up. We have an expert, a woman. Are you an expert womanizer? Fix that mic how it suits you. Talk into it so I make sure I'm hearing you. Where's my questions gone? Oh, here we go. Go on then.
Basically, I've done my fair share of womanizing. I'd say that.
Fair share.
And I've just been told
Yeah.
there's 5 invitations.
There's 5 invitations. Oh, we've got 5 invitations. All right. First things first. What shall we do for the invitations? The best 5 comments we get, we'll give them an invitation to the book launch, and we've got 2 books. And the top 2 get books, or
Yeah, the best 2 answers.
the best 2 answers, the best 2 comments throughout the show get books.
But the book will also be available at the launch.
Okay, the book's available. You know what? Book's available online. I was impressed. I clicked onto Amazon, and there was the book on Amazon. Nice picture. That's dark and seductive. I was like, yeah. I went onto your website. I was impressed with the website.
Okay.
You know, all the blogs and the testimonials on the website. I was impressed. Sue Elise was mesmerized by your book. Gina Yashere, Gina, this is the woman of wit, mesmerized by your book.
I'm not doing your way to read it.
And then Miss Dynamite. I tell you, well, you probably know what she says, but I'll tell you what she said. Powerful, hilarious, honest, heart-wrenching, and a must-read. Woman versus Womanizer. Go on then. Why did you write the book?
Basically, when I first wrote the book, I wrote it about 15 years ago. And
15 years ago.
yeah, I wrote it I was going for a bad period in my life when I was in myself. And basically, I was writing it to boast.
Hold on. Rewind. You're jumping over some important things, man. You said cell. Which cell? What are you talking about, cell?
Okay, so I was locked up.
All right.
I don't give too much of the
No,
story.
yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, so I was for 10 months and I wrote the book and I was basically boasting about womanizing.
Mm-hmm.
At the time I had a different name. I called it Garris Exposed.
Okay.
And then I got off the case, threw the book under my bed, and for some reason it followed me for all those years.
Yeah.
And another lady read the book and said, no, you got to get this published. But what I didn't realize at the time was the book wasn't finished yet. I thought it was, but it wasn't finished because I hadn't changed yet. You can't have negative. You need the change at the end, right?
Yeah.
So basically, and there's a bit of, I went through a kind of change, and my conscience hit me in certain ways, and basically, I've got daughters now.
How many daughters have you got?
I've got 3 daughters, and
So hold on. The Womanizer's been blessed with 3 daughters.
whoa, they always told me I was gonna have daughters. Don't worry, I'm watching them carefully.
Oh man. So would you say that the book is kind of like a manual for your daughters? Were you thinking about that when you were writing it? So it's some kind of guide to make sure that they don't fall into the hands of men like you 15 years ago.
I wasn't really thinking about my daughters, to be honest, when I was writing it. I was more thinking about, it was like a redemption.
Can I take this call? Somebody's calling. I'm assuming they want to speak to you. You're through to Lightning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening. I just wanted the gentleman to speak up, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Yes. Speak up. Let me turn up your mic. Go on then, speak. Just go testing. One.
Testing.
Right, you got to stay close.
Okay.